Hello, everyone. Dr. Anna Cabeca here. I am really, really thrilled to have a longtime friend of mine here on the show with us today. On our Couch Talk, I am introducing my dear friend from over the past decade. This is JJ Virgin. Her name is well known to my list and my community. She is really a leader in the health space and creating a revolution as well as a community of healthcare leaders from around the world. JJ, it is really awesome to have you here today.
It's been a decade?
It's been a decade.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
I know. Yeah, we certainly go a long way back. And fondest memory pops into my brain here when we celebrated your 50th birthday together.
Just thinking about that as you started to talk, like, gosh, that was great.
I know. I still have to have my 50th party. I'm just going to be a year late with that one. So I am really honored to have this time to talk with you at this point in your life and my life, because we've walked a long road together, and I've seen you suffer through this tragedy and that you're going to share with us about today. And you've come through it with a lovely resilience, with really a lovely resilience. And you continue to build on community to help other people. And you've been doing this really graciously. And I've seen you doing this over the past few years. And I am really happy that you're here to share about your journey and your new book that you're putting out called Miracle Mindset. So super excited about that. So will you share a little bit?
Yeah. And you were there during all this time. And again, I look at you and you're the queen of resilience. So I know you understand all this stuff intimately. So when my book that, I'm known for, The Virgin Diet, was a couple weeks away from getting published, which is always the craziest time. My son, I have two boys, at the time they were 15 and 16, and my 16-year-old Grant was out crossing the street and got hit by a car and hit and run. And he was left for dead in the street. He was airlifted to the local hospital. And when he got there, and we got there, the doctors were like, you're going to have to let him go, because he's got a torn aorta. It's hanging on by an onion skin. It's going to rupture sometime in the next 24 hours. It has to be repaired. But we don't do the surgery you need at this hospital. We had to do a very specialized surgery that required a blood thinner. They couldn't do it there. And the reason that they had to do this specialized surgery was Grant had a major traumatic brain injury. He was in a deep coma. He had multiple brain bleeds called diffuse axonal injuries. So he had that. And then he had 13 fractures covered in road rash with glass. And so we're hearing all this and hearing that there is a doctor who can do this surgery with a blood thinner, but the doctor says, he's never going to survive another airlift. And even if he were to survive another airlift, he's not going to survive that surgery. And even if he was able to survive both those things, the chance that he would ever be anywhere near normal it's just not going to happen. He's so brain damaged. And my younger son, Bryce, who was 15, looked at him and he goes, so like a 0.25% chance he'd make it? And the doctor said, that's about right. And Bryce said, we'll take those odds. And that was it. It was like we overruled the doctors. We found this amazing doctor who accepted the case for Harvard-UCLA, and in the middle of the night literally recruited the 5 surgical teams, got the stint from another hospital. I mean, all these things that you have no idea behind the scenes have to happen in order to make this work, all these little miracles. We drive up there. We don't know if he's going to be alive when we get there, because they told us he wouldn't be. And, that first doctor walks up and says, the doctor now who's at this new hospital says, you don't need to worry. I've got this. I do this all the time. I'm going to go fix him. You go in the waiting room. I'll come get you. Like, okay. So you're like, fine, that's great. You do that. And he fixed him, comes out. He says, okay, his aorta's repaired. It's all good. He goes, now I'm just the plumber. I have no idea if he'll ever wake up. It's not my part. Right. So you're like, you're so happy. And then it's like, oh, and, because at first the immediate concern was the torn aorta, but the real concern, of course, was the traumatic brain injury. And I know you've been through them too. that nothing can prepare you for this. And so he was in a coma for weeks. He was in the hospital for 4.5 months. And the big challenge was I had this book that was ready to come out, and I'm the financial support of my family. And now it's more important than ever. Like, there was no option to quit because I had everything invested in that book, and I was also had borrowed. So if the book didn't go, we were bankrupt, then I couldn't take care of my son, but I had to take care of my son in order to help save his life. And so I had to do everything. I had to do the book, and I had to be there for my son all at the same time. And that's really what the miracle mindset's about, is how I was able to do that. Because once I got through all of it, people were like, how did you do that? And, at first I thought, oh, I'm so healthy. I think, good thing I was so healthy showing up to be able to pull that off. And I'm looking back going, that was important. Yes, because you can't go into the ICU if you're sick, but that wasn't the reality. The reality is, it was Bryce, my younger son, looking at the doctors and telling him we'll take those odds. It was me the first day in that hospital looking at Grant in a coma, holding his hand and deciding that he was going to be 110%, that was the goal we were going for, and this was going to be the best thing that happened to him. And I was scared to death. Like, I'm saying this, and don't think I was like going, there's birds chirping, and no, it was totally frightening, but I had to have this big dream to hold on to, right? And I also believe you get what you expect. So, and that was just that mindset that we carried through for the last 4.5 years, because it's been a tough 4.5 years, helping him get to a point where now he is better than before.
And having been virtually at your side during that, you didn't take no for an answer, right? Here you were, fully mom. You're looking at, what am I going to do to help my son live? And not just live through this, but thrive as a result of this, that he's going to come out from this even better, and that we'll be better together as a family. And I saw you work through those aspects too. And with that, seriously, miracles were dropped on. It's just like
happening all over.
Yes. But you were tied in, you were determined, and you had that resilience. So I want to talk about that too. Back to, talking to you on the phone from the hotel room to the hospital bed, and then you're also in the midst of this launch. But you had this determination, drive, and flow of energy that was really circling around you at that time too.
Yeah, and it wasn't my first rodeo is the part of this, because what's important is I think we tend to look at things that happen to us, those challenges, as bad things. And the reality is, when you start to talk to people, like all the people in my life who inspire me, you being one of them. I know the things that you've gone through, and someone can either walk away from those things as a victim or as better because of it. Even if it was the most awful situation, there's still gifts there, and there's growth there, and you can become better because of it. And I had all of these things happen in my life. I remember this one. At the same time, my son gets diagnosed with bipolar, the older one. My dad gets diagnosed with terminal cancer, and I get hit with, we're going through the worst divorce ever, and I'm getting sued, for alimony and child support, and I'm nearly bankrupt. This is all happening at once. And, when those things happen, there's a decision, right? There's a little fork in the road, and you decide if you're going to be the victim or if you're going to fight and be better because of it. And every time you step up and you have courage and you lean in instead of running away, you get stronger and you build resilience. And the research is really clear that people who do that are happier, they're more successful. And when those things come up, because you and I both know they're going to come up for everybody. No one's immune here. There's going to be those things that you think will just knock you to your knees. And you want to have the mindset to be able to handle them. And that was the big thing that I looked at. And when people asked me how I did it, I really looked at this and went, can you develop that? Because if you can develop that, then this is something I want to talk about. I knew this story was inspiring, but I didn't know if I could take what specifically happened to me and create universal lessons and help people build their own miracle mindset so they'd see. I mean, it's like the miracles are all around us. You just don't see them unless you're looking, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, God winks. And also with that, you decided, I mean, it was like an unconscious decision. I mean, there was conscious and unconscious decision. You were in survival mode too. So what made you not become the victim? Let's talk about that miracle mindset that now, and I want to say I honor you because I know that talking about the trauma again and again is, triggering. And thank you for doing this because you are also, again, overcoming a huge obstacle in just reliving the story when you tell it or talking about it and putting it out there and putting yourself in a vulnerable place to be able to share this information. So all of my listeners need to know how cherishing this information is and how much it needs to be cherished, as well as you for putting yourself in this vulnerable place to really make a difference in the world for so many. Because true, everyone faces something and there's no comparison. We cannot make comparisons. One person's grief cannot be compared to another's or situationally. It's real for us, all of us at any time. So let's get on this miracle mindset. What do we need to do?
Yeah, I will tell you, when I decided to write this book, and then decided, well, we should do a documentary. Then we decided, well, we should do an academy. I didn't think about, I'm going to be talking about this and talking about it and reading the audiobook. And it's like, that part I was like, I didn't think about that. But I've put the book out. It's been a galley now. I've had a lot of people read it and watch the documentary and go through the academy so that we can test things out. And it's all worth it because I've never gotten this kind of response from anything. No one picks up the Virgin Diet and says, oh my gosh, I couldn't put it down. Right? I mean, that just doesn't happen. They might like it, but it's not going to be the thing they couldn't put down that changes their entire life. And it was interesting. I asked my community a year ago, I go, if you are not where you need to be in your health, why not? Because I look at it and I go, gosh, I've got the simplest science-based strategies out there. This is not difficult, right? And so why aren't you doing this? And I really expected people to say, well, I can't give up the sugar or I love my pizza, whatever it was, right? It was not
comfort foods.
Yes, you would think that, but they said, and this is thousands of people. The answer was, I don't feel good enough. I don't feel worthy. And it was the big thing that came up as I first started to bring people in. I didn't even know what this thing was, but that's part of the miracle mindset is to take inspired imperfect action and be courageous. So I was like, I'm going to take a bunch of people through these lessons, see if I can teach them this. And not sure how I'm going to do it. We'll all dive in here. But in the very first call, it came up, I don't feel good enough. I don't feel worthy. And I'm like, wow, that is just, you think, you can never outgrow that. If that's your definition of yourself is you're not good enough, it's going to impact your relationships. It's impacting your career, your finances, your health, everything. So I realized this has to lay over everything that we're doing. We do not have a shortage of strategies, but we do have a limitation of mindset. And there's not really what do you do to go train it? And so the first thing that I did was figure out how to assess it because what you measure, you can improve, right? And so I thought, well, how do you measure this? This is what is this? First, I was Googling, what is mindset, right? What is it? And what I realized was that all of the people who I really just, I just admire had some key attributes, and they were the attributes of taking action. You see so many people that are going to stay back until they have it perfect. And I'm thinking, I don't know about you, but I've never done anything perfectly in my life. Perfectly imperfect, but never perfect,
Perfectly imperfect.
It's exactly. So, it's being courageous. It's developing that resilience. It's taking action. It's thinking abundantly. It's like looking at my son and going, you're going to be 110%. Not, oh gosh, I hope you just make it. No. Let's go way out there. It's being able to be here now and not continue to always chase that horizon out there. And a key one being able to forgive.
Oh,
I mean,
that's so huge.
huge.
And really, forgiveness of self sometimes is the
Biggest one of
hard
all.
one.
That's the big one. I went through a week with Dave Asprey at his 40 years of Zen. He like pulled me into it. He goes, you have to do this. I didn't know what it was. It was a week of neurofeedback, and what you used to work the neurofeedback was forgiveness. And they took you through a very active forgiveness protocol. And I'm like, after a couple days, I'm just realizing, wow, I've got so many people and so much to forgive, but really, ultimately, I just have to forgive myself.
Yes.
Right?
Oh, so true. So true.
And it doesn't just, you can't just go, okay, forgive. It doesn't, like, you really have to go through the process of it. It's not just a simple thing. And if you don't, you just can't feel the joy that you should in life, because you've got this anger and rage that you're not even aware of, suppressing all of it.
Right. And then feeds into that the sentiment that I'm not worthy versus I am good. I think that does feed through. I remember, in my own forgiveness work, like basically shouting out in my spiritual life to God and saying, God, will you forgive me? And just like in that meditation, God saying back to me, forgive you for what? I mean, it's that sense of like, wait, I got a list here, but no, it's like, forgive you for what? I'm like, just be. And, forgive yourself is a huge part of our spiritual journey, and that sense of release so that you can have open flowing channels of energy to have better, little bit better hormone balance and lots more oxytocin.
Yes. I mean, that's the thing. Like, when you look at this, again, it could be your career, it's your relationships, it's your health. It's like everything is impacted here. Everything. And what's so cool is, without even really thinking actively about any of those areas in your life, if you work on your mindset, everything improves. It just does. And it also creates, I thought about it, like looking back at the hospital, because that was like the craziest time ever. And because we were talking, so I know what it was like. And I had a habit in place, a couple of them, and they saved me. And that's why you can't wait. You would never have someone go, you know what, I would like to be a fireman. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go run into a bunch of burning buildings, and then I'll go learn what to do. You have to train. And it's the same thing here. I already had this habit that I'd had for years of writing in a journal every single morning, physically writing pen to paper and writing down what I was grateful for. 3 things every day. That was like one of the things that saved me when I was in the hospital, was that habit every morning of being in gratitude, because otherwise it was so scary. It was hard to the fear would shut me down. And then every night walking out of that hospital and going, okay, what's good here? What are the wins here? Right. And sometimes it was like he wiggled a toe.
Wow. Yeah. And so that was one of your habits. What was one of your other habits?
So one of the other things is I've always been super, as you know, collaborative. And I've always had this really cool community of people. It's, I think maybe it's an adopted kid trait. Like, I want to build this family. I've got like more family, right? And so I've had these amazing people around me. And so I just reached out to this community, and I was in such a habit of always communicating with people. And I did it through Facebook because I could not possibly talk to everybody and text, but that was one of the most important things for helping Grant survive, because the information I got from you about progesterone, and I had fish oil information, I just got all this information and all this support. People were coming to the hospital and bringing me healthy food, and I mean, it was amazing. So that is one, is just having a lifeline, having a plan when things get out of hand, right?
Well, that's so true. I think of the hormonal connections there as well. What you did, you not only reached, you reached out to community, but you received it, right? So again, opening your vulnerability to receive people into this personal time. So you were not isolated. You did not allow yourself to be isolated. You were constantly involved, interacting, and vulnerable. Like, look, this is what I'm experiencing. And that allowed you, again, to receive heartfelt compassion and love. And again, that helps, especially because we get so depleted in times of high stress with our, from a physiologic standpoint, our oxytocin hormone. So
it was amazing because I did
medication.
I checked my adrenals afterwards. Like, you would have thought I would have been destroyed. Our buddy, Dr. Hyla Cass, showed up the first night with like a purse full of everything for lowering cortisol. I'm like, oh, thank you. Because I was like heartburn. I mean, like, it's horrible. But I put so much extreme self-care into play because I knew that the only way I could pull this off was to be super healthy. And that I actually got through all of this. And one would have thought I would have been in total adrenal exhaustion. I wasn't. I mean, because I was getting my sleep. I was supported by friends. And I sleep every night. I was getting at least 8 hours of sleep. I was eating correctly. I was exercising. A lot of times I was just running up and down the hospital stairs, but I was doing it. And, it's like you can get through these things, but I had those habits in place too. I already was getting up every morning and having a shake. I already was exercising. I was making sure I was getting my sleep. So I didn't have to think about them. They were already in place.
So you had those great habits, practices, disciplines that were steadfast in your life. How did you keep them? Because this is where, you hear from me all the time, like, okay, I've fallen off. How did you keep them in place when you're going through this? What is the mindset, that enabled you, the discipline that enabled you to keep doing those things when you feel like, oh my gosh, I get into that self-speak. I got to take care of this kid, this kid, this kid. There's no time for this kid, for me kid. And, how were you able, because it's essential, right? That's one of the things that I preach.
I think that one of the most selfless things you can do is take really good care of yourself. And as a mom, it's even more important because that's what your kids will see.
Amen, sister. Right? Let's say that again.
You raise great kids and they're seeing, oh, well, mommy lets herself be last and eat the scraps and stay up all night doing the wash. So I guess I will too. Like, no, that's not what we do. So I've been in the health and fitness industry for years. And so I always said, I cannot teach something to you. I cannot tell you what you need to do to be healthy unless I'm absolutely walking the talk.
Yes.
And so it's always been a thing where the purpose was bigger than me, because I knew that if I was going to really stand up there and talk and do TV, I had to be at a point where someone followed me around in my life. They go, okay, she really is doing all those things. Like, she really does eat that way. Because people always ask, what do you do to cheat? I go, I don't cheat. Like, I actually don't cheat. And I'm not deprived. I've just changed my taste buds. So, I still come from that place of the busier you are, the more important it is. And it's critical to create habits because they're going to create a structure which gives you that freedom. You don't have to think about it. And actually, when you look at it, like, it takes the same amount of time to eat healthy as to eat crappy.
So true.
So that one doesn't work. And the amount of exercise you need to really make a difference is really pretty small. And if you look at how much time you waste during the day on silly things, you can easily scrape out the time for exercise. So you're just not making it a priority because you have the time. Find the time. Right. And you know that when you get enough sleep, it changes everything, that you're more productive. Because most of us are working too much, not well. Like, we're not working productively. We're just working long hours. Mm-hmm. And I know for me, I've got a couple really good hours in the morning. And that's when I always make sure I have that time, because the rest of it's much more just kind of cleanup time. I'm not like, so I use that. So it's really about building those habits in. One of the things that I did in the hospital, because all I really could do was the book, it was self-care grant book, that was the trifecta. And so anything that wasn't self-care grant book, and of course, Bryce, my other son, was out. I got super essential. Anything else got deleted, delegated, or automated in my life. And I think we all need to do a lot more of that. I think that we end up doing things that we either could have someone help us do. I went back, I have a house out in the desert that my ex-husband and one of my sons live in. And honest to God, Anna, it looks like a frat house. And I walked into it. I went back home, and I have two houses kind of right next door to each other, a couple doors down. And so I go to that house, and I open the garage door, and it looks like an episode of Hoarders. And I'm like, my anxiety goes through the roof, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I thought, I don't have to do this. They aren't going to do it, but I will hire someone to do this. And that will be good for that person, who actually now has become an important person in our life, who's been helping Grant and is a yoga teacher. But like, this will help the other person. They need the work, and it will help my stress levels. So, I mean, I think we tend to think we have to do all these things that we don't need to do, right?
Mm-hmm. So true. And you just created a good flow of energy with that, release it from you, and it transpired into something that circled back around to help you.
Exactly. And she loved it. She's like, loves organizing. I'm like, okay, this is fun.
I love people like that. I do. Yes. So tell our listeners where they can go and learn about this miracle mindset. What's their next right step? What's our next right step?
So when I did this, it started with a book. Again, like, I keep going and going and going, but
yes,
it started with a book, and then I wanted to create something for public television, and what worked best here was do a documentary. So I actually have that documentary that we're doing a free online screening of. And so we have the book and the documentary, and then some support materials that help you to start creating your own miracle mindset. Because that was the big thing. It's like, measure it and then start working on it. And the cool thing is, the first thing that I've taught people to do, and I see such a huge needle mover with it, because I like to find the little hinges that swing the big doors, is just that starting the day with gratitude. It's so simple. You can do it in a minute. And it's just one that it is my habit. I have just literally put it next to my thyroid medication. So I wake up in the morning, because I'm not skipping that, and I roll over, grab my thyroid medication, my pen, and my notebook. And I do it every day. And then every night, my fiance and I talk about our little wins.
Nice.
Yes.
Nice.
So I think everyone can go see that online premiere. And again, we're doing it for a short window, so you'll want to go do this now. But we're putting all through your link at Dr. Anna Cabeca. Do you do Dr. Anna Cabeca or Dr. Cabeca?
Yeah, just go to my website, drAnnaCabeca.com, and just /JJ. And that will take you right there to the documentary series. Docuseries. I'm so excited about that. And I've seen your preview, and it's amazing what you shared and how you did it. It is something that you just can't take your eyes away from. So
yeah, I can watch it now and not cry.
Oh, I don't know that I can yet, but bravo. And again, JJ, thanks so much. Thanks for sharing, and thanks for being so vulnerable and really taking your time with us today. All right. So my listeners, drAnnaCabeca.com /JJ. And we look forward to doing more with you again this year, and just seeing where the source for you, and give Grant our love, and Bryce, and, really happy for you and your family.
Thank you.
And your fiance. Did you guys catch that out there? We've got a wedding coming up. I'm super excited.
Mm-hmm. And I have two super, super wonderful boys that are giving me away. So,
oh, yeah. Yay. Well, I'm so thrilled for that. Thank you again for being here. And my listeners, drAnnaCabeca.com /JJ. And super excited to be here with you and share this, my dear.
Thank you.
All right, y'all, be sure to share this podcast recording with your friends, share it on Facebook, share it, and comment below and let me know how you like it. Any feedback, any questions, and we'll circle back around.